So today we are going to start a stored procedure in SQL Server. What is a stored procedure? What is a procedure? If you are writing a select star from EMP,
Ram,
yes,
just a question. Yesterday, the step you achieved through temporary tables, correct? Instead of table variables and cursors.
yes,
Okay. I mean, the same thing you achieved it
yeah,
through
yeah.
cursors. Okay. Just wanted to understand you. We could have used table variables also. Why cursors? Is there anything that we cannot achieve in cursor? We can achieve only in cursor and not in table variables and temporary tables.
Right. Uh,
Just wanted to understand
no,
better,
no,
Ram.
nothing is there, but sometimes it will take some complexity to develop because so the cursor or whatever anything
Hmm.
why the SQL server was implemented
Huh.
simplify your coding. Okay, so to simplify the your coding, so why they will put this left function, because they want to simplify to identify the left two characters or three characters. Why we are writing our
Yeah.
if defined functions? To simplify our code. Every time we no need to write down the set of SQL statements. Why we are writing stored procedures? To reduce the effort every time to write down the 1,000 lines of the SQL statements. The same way the cursor or whatever anything, so anything is possible without using cursor also, but the thing is sometimes the implementation may take too much time. Okay, I will give one example tomorrow. Okay, right. So what is a stored procedure? For example, this is a simple select statement. Select star from EM. So whenever you want to see the data inside this table, yes, you can write down the select star from EMP simply and write down. So the same way, if you observe the architecture of my application, this is the database. This is the database server. My SQL server is there. SQL server. So here I am going to store my data. And this is my application server. So this is the basic architecture in everywhere. They are maintaining two servers. One is for database and the one is application server. So they are building this application by using either Java or .NET. So most compatibility is .NET, because the Java people will go to the Oracle. Okay, and this we are using SQL Server because we are using the product of MSP. So what will happen? This is the end user. Okay, so the end user, when he is trying to browse a particular application through web or something, so you are login into, if you want to log into your internet banking through web, you are a end user. Through the web you are login and you are going to browse. So how that application was designed? They are designing that application by using a Java or .NET, whatever. And how you are getting your information, your balance, your last 10 transactions, all these informations are stored inside the database. So when you are browsing this application, the application will contact the SQL Server database. It will send a request. For example, if you are clicking on last 10 months transaction, okay, so what will it do? It will send a query. Already whatever we have written inside this application, and it will execute that query. So that query will come and contact the SQL server, and it will send that SQL query to SQL server database engine. So when it is sending that SQL query, how it will send? It will send like a string by string, string by string. If you have 100 lines of the SQL query, it will send a string by string, string by string. Right? So if it is a simple query, no problem. If it is a 1000 lines or 2000 lines of the query, just imagine how much time it will take. So in this way, every time if you are sending these 1000 lines of the query, you are not only the one user for this application. For a particular bank, there are thousands and lakhs of the customers are there. If 50,000 of the users are logging to the internet banking at the same time, just imagine the same request they are sending to the database, how the performance will affect, right? So because there are 50,000 users are logging into their internet bankings, and all the people they want to see their balance or something, and for a particular logic these people are written 1000 lines of the code. So all 1000 lines of the code, the 50,000 times it is sent to SQL server to execute. So what it has to, so whatever the 1000 lines you are sending, it will go string by string, string by string, it will break up, and all those 1000 lines will come into the SQL server and it will try to execute. Okay, so when it is going to execute, so first it will compile the query, whatever the query we have written. So every time the 50,000 times the 50,000 users are sending request, it has to compile and it has to give the result back again. So there is a much traffic, network traffic. So that is the reason sometimes the applications will come down, right? So what we have to do, how can we reduce these kind of bottlenecks? So these 1000 lines of the SQL statements, why you are sending again and again from the SQL application to SQL server? So that is the reason what we are going to do here. Whatever the 1000 lines of the SQL statements you are writing here, you are sending here. So I don't want to write these 1000 lines of the SQL statements in the application. I want to mention these 1000 lines into SQL server like a procedure. So inside this block I am going to mention these 1000 lines. I want to give a name for these statements, this set of SQL statements. If you are writing a set of SQL statements, that is a stored procedure. And this stored procedure is a pre-compiled program. Means if you are compiling one time, you don't need to compile every time. When the 50,000 users are going to execute this set of SQL statements, it no need to compile every time. It's a one-time compilation program. If you want to compile, you can compile manually forcefully. Okay, so it don't compile every time. It is one-time compiling and saved in the database. So we are going to give a name for this procedure. So whatever the name you are giving for this stored procedure, whatever the name you are giving for this stored proc, so instead of mentioning 1000 lines in this application, you just write down and you just call the procedure. So which procedure, which SQL statements you want to execute? I want to execute the procedure name. So you can simply mention execute whatever the procedure name. So when you are writing this statement, so you no need to send 1000 lines. It will just send a string execute procedure name. So then it will contact the SQL server, and whatever the procedure you are going to execute, it will execute that procedure. That 1000 lines already stored in the SQL server. You don't need to send from the application. You are just sending a command execute procedure name. That's all. The traffic, the network traffic will reduce, and you don't need to compile every time. It will improve the performance. Clear? A stored procedure is a set of SQL statements pre-compiled and saved in the database. Right. So this is the way we are going to write down a stored procedure. What is the syntax for the stored procedure? Create procedure. What is the procedure name? Sorry guys. Okay. What is the procedure name? The procedure name I am going to give EMP information. So by using this stored procedure, I am going to get the employees information. Okay, right. As, so as is a command, and you have to mention the keyword as. If you want to begin, so when we are beginning and when we are ending. If you are writing more than one SQL statements, if you are writing a begin end command, so it will treat like a one transaction and one batch. Simple command I am going to write down. I don't want to write down 1,000 lines. Select star from EMP. And I want to join this table. Inner join department as D. This is E table. On E dot department number equal to D dot department number. Okay. Create procedure name as begin. So I'm going to write down one simple statement. That's all. Created procedure. So I'm going to execute this one. Command completed successfully. Where can you check this procedure? Under this database, under the programmability. Okay. So you can go to the databases. Sorry, under the stored procedures. See EMP info. Whatever the procedure you have written here. So this procedure don't have any parameters. We'll discuss later whatever the parameters. So whatever the code you have written, if you want to see that code, how can you? Sometimes they don't give permissions to you to see from here. You can't generate the scripts over here. You don't have access. So in that situation, you have to write down sp underscore help text. What is the procedure name? EMP info. This is the script. Right? So whatever the procedure you have created, how can you call the procedure? How to call a stored procedure? Execute. What is the procedure name? EMP info. See, this is the data is coming. I'm just calling this execute EMP info procedure name. This is the procedure name. Okay. So instead of writing that statement inside this application, what I'm doing, I'm going to write down execute EMP info. So when HR will come and wants to see the employee information, okay, so he will click on a particular button. So in the back end, the button will send a command, that is execute EMP info to this SQL Server database. So it will execute that stored procedure and it will give back to the result. Okay, so this EMP info is a procedure having some statements stored inside that. Okay, right. So for example, if the HR wants to see a particular employee information, or for example, he wants to see only a particular department information. So you have the employee information in your SQL Server. In these employees, they are belongs to 3 departments. So the HR wants to see the employees information belongs to the department number 10 in the application. Right? So this application, from this application the HR will send the department number 10 to this procedure. Execute procedure name EMP info. So if he is sending the value 10, so this procedure will take the value 10 as a input parameter and it will execute and it will give only department number 10 information. If this guy is sending a department number 20, if he wants to see, he will send the value 20. So this procedure has to take the value 20 and it has to display the 20th department information. Okay. Right. So how can you create a input parameter for a procedure and how can we execute that procedure? Come here. This is my procedure. So whatever the procedure already created, if you want to alter this procedure, simply in place of create, make it alter. What you want to do? I want to add a input parameter. How can you add the input parameter? So that is at the rate of department number. You can give any variable name. And what kind of data type? Into data type. What parameter this one? Input parameter. You don't need to specify. Automatically it will treat as a input parameter only. Okay, right. So what I'm going to do here, whatever the variable you are passing here, I'm going to filter over here where department number equal to this one. So this department number I'm going to filter on the D table. So what will happen when you are going to execute this procedure? For example, if you are passing the value 10, the same value will come and filter over here. The next time when you are going to execute this procedure, if you are sending the value 20, so the same 20 value will come and filter over here. If you are sending 30, the same 30 will come and filter over here. Okay, so you just alter this one. Whenever you are doing modifications, you have to execute. Command completed successfully. Right? So if you are trying to execute this procedure or function EMP info expects the parameter. What parameter? At the rate of department number, which was not supplied. So the parameter value you have to pass is department number 10. Right? I'm going to execute this. See, only the department number 10 information is given. If you are passing department number 20, it will give only the department number 20. If I am passing department number 30, it will give the department number 30th information. Clear? So this is the way you can pass the input parameter. There are multiple ways, multiple input parameters you can pass. If you want to pass one more, just put comma, and I'm going to pass employee number also integer. So you have to add the filter over here, and at the rate of emp number equal to at the rate of p number. You have to alter this one. Why it is throwing error? So whatever the variable you are declaring over here, it is different. Execute now. Sorry, this is our column, not the variable. Okay, right. Command completed success. Now you have two parameters. So you have to put comma, and I'm going to pass the employee number 7499. See, only the information it is giving for this employee number, for this department number. So whenever you are going to call this procedure, the values, this department number will come into this variable, this 7499 will come into over here. So whatever the values are coming into this query, filtering the values. Right. So whatever the commands you have mentioned over here, this is a set of SQL statements. Right? So what I want to do, I want to insert these values into one table variable. Okay, right. How can you do it? So select star into -emp from select star from, and finally you can drop the table. Drop table -emp. Right. I want to declare one more table variable. Declare at the rate of emp tab table s number integer, e number integer, e name varchar. Okay, so into this variable you can insert into values, insert into this table variable from the variable emp tab. Right. So you can't declare two table variables immediately. You can put like this. Create a temporary table. One temporary table and one table variable. Create table emp tab hash. Select star from drop table, this one. Hash. Okay, right. So we are declaring one table variable, and two variables we have declared to loop the counter. and whatever the data is coming here, I want to insert into one table variable, one temporary table. Finally, I am dropping the table. So whatever the set of SQL statements we have written here, so these statements you are going to put inside your application. No need to put in your application, and no need to send every time to your database to get the result back. So what you can do? So you can put simply inside a stored procedure. Create procedure. The procedure name is looping probe. You can write down anything as begin, finally end it. Done. Command completed successfully. How can you call this procedure? Execute. What is the procedure name? Looping probe. See, simply this command you can call. Am I right? For example, if you want to get only department number 10, department number 20, department number 30 information, if I am going to send a department number 10, I want to get only department number 10 information. So you have to create the input parameter. Just bracket open at the rate of department number equal to integer. Bracket close. So where can you filter this one? So this you can filter in this statement, because this is the data, this is the query is going to put the data into this table variable. If you are writing the where condition, where department number equal to this one, that's all. There is already object, so you have to alter this one. Command completed successfully. So this will give only department number 10 information. If you are giving department number 20, it will give department number 20. If you are sending department number 30, it will give department number 30th information. Right. So till now you are sending a input parameters to a procedure. So is this procedure always returns the data? The procedure means always it is returning the data? No. Any kind of SQL statements, either it is a delete statement, either it is a update statement. For example, if you want to delete any records, if you want to update record, any DML or DDL commands you can put inside the SQL statement, sorry, inside the stored procedure. If you are putting an update statement, what will happen? It is just updating the records when you are executing this procedure. It don't return any data. So a procedure, it may return or may not return the data. The procedure is just for storing whatever the operations you are doing by using the SQL statements. It just put simply inside the stored procedure, and you can execute whenever you want to execute that procedure. So till now we are sending the input parameter. How can you get the data from stored procedure? So you are displaying the data. So instead of displaying the data, if you want to store inside a output variable, because why we are going to store the data inside a output variable? In this application level, sometimes the people wants the return through a variable. Whenever you are executing this procedure, whatever the result is coming, so you have to return that data from a output variable. So how to declare a output variable and how to assign the values into that output variable. And also, till now the input parameter you are passing a single value. Either it is a department number 20, department number 10, department number 30. Is it possible to send a stored procedure the input values like a table data? I want to pass data like 100, Ram, salary 1000, and 200, Deepthi 2000. So this is a kind of table input parameter. I want to send 1 lakh of the records as a input parameter for the procedure. Is it possible? And whatever the data is returning from the procedure, I want to return that data like a XML format. Is it possible? The output I want to return like this way, XML data. Simple. Select star from EMP where, sorry, for XML auto. This is the XML data is coming, right? So this data I want to return, this kind of data I want to return from the stored procedure. So if you are clicking on here, the information is coming. Because why I am returning the data like this way, the Java people will loop the data from this variable, because there is no option to return through output variable as a single record, sorry, more than single record. So the output variable will return only single record, but if you want to return more than single record, so this is one option. Okay, so all these things we'll discuss in the next session. Okay.